Hello everyone and welcome back to the Common Sense Crypto channel. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on XRP. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day today wherever you are in this great world. We're gonna talk about XRP. And I gotta start with this. The Washington DC housing market is being affected by the layoffs in the federal government. Now imagine what happens to the rental market and housing market in the US when 10 to 20 million illegal aliens are deported. Rents and housing prices become affordable again. I see so many people talking about this. I even know landlords that are talking about this right now. But this goes in line with what I've been saying for a while now. By the time XRP really gets to some decent price points, or even other altcoins that you're holding get to some decent price points, you could take profit this year and get into real estate. You will most likely be buying the bottom of the real estate market by the end of 2025. And you may never have to sell your XRP to get into real estate because there's going to be so many ways to borrow against your crypto as well. Take a listen to David Schwartz here.
Funding all happens on Ledger. So that means that if you're interested in funding a loan, you could pay into one of these lending pools, and as payments are made on the loan, you could receive money automatically from the Ledger as those payments are made. And you could also use the loans as collateral. You could use your share of the payments as a form of payment. So it'd be very liquid for the holders of these loan pools.
They already have loan pools on the XRP ledger. Now imagine getting your mortgage by borrowing against your XRP and then paying it back with passive income from another cryptocurrency you're holding, or borrow against that cryptocurrency and pay it off with passive income you're getting from XRP. That's what crypto does. We are going to see so many options open up this year. The only thing we're still waiting on is regulations. Once that happens and the institutions are fully on board, all of a sudden they're going to open up passive income options because they're going to also want to make money in this space. And here's something that a lot of people never knew. Who knew you could pay rent with a security? This comes from Johnny Deaton. Now we know XRP is not a security. Below is another use case of XRP being utilized as a substitute for fiat currency. Pursuant to paragraph 26 of the lease, the landlord is to be paid in XRP. You know, that's another way you could make XRP. Buy real estate, rent out the apartments, tell the tenants you want to get paid in XRP. Crypto opens up so many options. It's incredible where XRP is going to be accepted in the near future. We just watched somebody buy a car in Utah with XRP. I think they bought it at the wrong time. And I think the guy who sold that car is going to make a lot of money in 2025. Breaking: partnership between XRP and Elon Musk officially announced. Now, I think this is just nonsense. I think it's rumor, and I think it's made up as well. And you see, it comes from Binance Square. I do believe Elon will most likely utilize RippleNet and XRP in the future. There's a lot of ties between Elon Musk and Ripple. And Elon recently, I remember there was an article about X getting involved with Visa. Visa is also a Ripple partner. I think this will all come together eventually. We're just not quite there yet. But you see those type of posts every single day all over X. And a lot of it is just made up, just for clicks. Ripple XRP fused into banking network. Now we know XRP is going to be tied in to Swift. Ripple and Swift are coming together. Ripple fixes all the problems with Swift. And that's the reason why ISO 222 compliant cryptocurrencies are so important. This is going to be a big deal this year. It's going to start this year, but we're going to see the value of these ISO cryptocurrencies gradually go up in price as we see it being utilized more and more inside of Swift. That is absolutely coming. You know, everybody thinks ISO has nothing to do with crypto, and we've confirmed this. We have the white papers to prove it. We have people from Swift talking about it, and yet nobody wants to believe it. Because if they were to believe it, then they know that Bitcoin has no place in the future financial system. Brad Garlinghouse confirms XRP will play a role in the new US banking system. But in this clip, Brad educates people on what Ripple is, what XRP is, and what the XRP ledger is. And, you know, right now, there's so many people calling XRP Ripple still. I had somebody, I guess they're new to crypto, DM me and say, where do I buy Ripple? And I'm like, you want to buy XRP, not Ripple. Apparently, they searched around for Ripple, but maybe they found Ripple shares, and Ripple didn't even IPO yet. I have no idea, but take a listen to what Brad says here.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked this because I'm always amazed as I travel the world, you know, how there is still confusion out there. And people will say to me, oh, I invested in Ripples. I'm like, no, you probably invested in XRP. So Ripple is in many ways kind of a quintessential Silicon Valley tech company. We raised a seed round of capital way back in 2012, a Series A investment in 2014, and then a Series B in 2016. And we have always, you know, since those early days, kind of focused on our customers are going to be enterprises, financial institutions, and we use XRP in part because we own a lot of XRP. XRP is an open source digital asset, not dissimilar to Bitcoin or ETH. It's, you know, on hundreds of exchanges around the world. It uses a different mechanism for validating transactions, where instead of proof of work or proof of stake, it uses something called a consensus mechanism, which allows it to be very scalable in terms of speed of transaction, cost of transaction, and just overall scalability. And so we felt like it worked well for the cross-border payments. So there's Ripple, the company, there's XRP, the digital asset, then there's XRP Ledger, XRPL. And the reason why we kind of call that out sometimes is Ripple is one important participant in the XRPL ecosystem, developer of XRPL related technologies, but there are obviously a whole bunch of others, as you would expect in an open source community. And we're seeing other participants do some really interesting stuff that sometimes we're involved in, sometimes we're not involved in. And so it's, I think, important for people to kind of understand the separation and distinction between those.
For sure. I mean, just quick question.
I think it's important that anybody getting invested into crypto knows what Ripple is, what the XRP ledger is, and what XRP is. But Brad's right. You know, I think that confusion is being created by other retail investors. And I think some of that confusion is being created on purpose because they want to keep people away from XRP all of a sudden. It's like XRP is the biggest enemy to Bitcoin right now. But, you know, all Brad wanted was a level playing field, and instead we got into a battle with the Bitcoin maxis. ISO 222 introduces standardization in the crypto landscape. ISO 222 compliant crypto can integrate more effectively with traditional financial systems, and that's why they were chosen, because they could integrate with the traditional financial system. It's like if you're going to transition from the current financial system into a digital financial system, you need to have something to bridge the two together. And that's what's great about these ISO compliant cryptocurrencies. But people still don't realize that yet. It's like, oh, they're never going to utilize this. They're never going to utilize that. And that's because we haven't seen it happen yet. Once it starts happening, you're going to hear people saying, I was totally wrong about ISO. I should have paid attention when people were talking about ISO, because all of a sudden the prices of these cryptocurrencies are going to change very fast. And you could also add in HBAR, XDC, QNT, IOTA as well. But, you know, I always said it, they chose that handful of cryptocurrencies for a reason. And, you know, people always think like we should be afraid of Bitcoin, but actually, it's not just crypto companies fearing big tech, it's also banks. This is because big tech has a huge amount of users. No bank can even remotely match Facebook's 3 billion monthly active users. Think about that. Now take a listen to what Charles Hoskinson says here.
And the inconvenient truth that a lot of people in this space don't want to admit is our competitors are not Ethereum and Solana or even Bitcoin. It's Microsoft and Apple and Google and Amazon. What's going to happen is when the regulations get passed, we're going to wake up and they're going to be like, hey, by the way, let you know, like Android now has like a default crypto wallet. How about that? And then you wake up, you see Facebook. Oh, by the way, it's like there's a default crypto wallet now in Facebook. And then they're like, oh, wow, Windows has like a crypto wallet in it. You say, but I don't know if that's great. It's like, do you understand like how much of a user advantage they have?
So what Charles is thinking is going to happen is Meta, Amazon, Apple, Google, and Microsoft can replace the faster, cheaper L1s like Solana after the stablecoin bill passes. I think Ripple already has a massive head start on any competition out there. Ripple has been getting integrated, putting rails in place all around the world for the last decade. And I think these ISO cryptocurrencies will be a major part of the new financial system. The problem that Meta, Amazon, Apple, Google, and Microsoft are going to have is that they're still tied into the broken SWIFT system. No matter what, they're going to end up being tied into that system. Ripple is fixing that system. Ripple can possibly even replace that system at some point. So I do believe the big tech companies are competition for the banks because they're going to offer their users easier ways to transact, store their money, and they could even replace the banking system. But you got to fix the biggest problem out there, and it's a 50-year-old giant called SWIFT. And Ripple is going to take down that giant eventually. You could see it coming. But I do believe Charles is right. I think it's going to take, maybe it's a threat more to some of these broken networks that are always going down, networks that have problems. But for the most part, the cryptocurrencies that are utility driven, they're all already integrated all around the world. So I want to see where this goes from here. Senator Rand Paul calls on Elon Musk's Doge to audit U.S. gold reserves at Fort Knox to ensure it's still there. I always said it's probably bricks painted gold that are at Fort Knox. But, you know, we have a time frame. If that gold isn't there, Steve Mnuchin visited the U.S. Bullion Depository at Fort Knox to inspect the nation's gold reserves in 2017. So if it's not there now, we know it disappeared sometime between 2017 and 2025. But I'm sure that gold is still there. I want to believe it's still there. If it's missing, I think things will change very fast in the United States. But, you know, I wanted to point that out, that big tech can be a threat to the crypto space, but not all of the crypto space. And even Charles was right. You know, our biggest enemy is not Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin, it's data technology. We know it's not going to be part of the future. It's never going to be utilized inside of transactions. It's actually going to be tokenized on these other networks eventually, because that would be how you could transact in Bitcoin. What would the price look like then? Nobody really knows. But by the time that happens, and I think that's probably going to happen after the fall of Tether, once Tether collapses out Bitcoin, they're going to try to bring that liquidity back into Bitcoin and get the price going again. But it's going to have a use case for that to happen. That's when they would most likely tokenize it to bring in more liquidity and run it on these other networks. That's just my honest opinion on that. But let's wait and see how this all plays out with the gold at Fort Knox. Let's hope it's still there. And this year, no matter how you look at it, it's going to be big for XRP. And this is probably the year that you could buy the bottom of the housing market. And I know a lot of people, they said, I don't care about passive income. I just want to buy a house for my family. I always looked at it like this. If you could keep your XRP, borrow against it, buy a house, pay it off with passive income, that's a better path forward. Because XRP is going to continue to go up in price and your passive income is going to go up as well. So you pay off the mortgage quicker and you still have your XRP. I would wait until those options become more available through some of the biggest names out there in the financial world, because everybody's going to be onboarding once regulations come into this space. But until it happens, stay patient, stay positive, and let's get rich together. With that said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.